Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci, and welcome to NLL Lacrosse Talk. Welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Joining me now is Gary Groob and our guest, Damon Edwards. Damon, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me on today, guys.
It's our pleasure. So the first thing we always ask is how people get involved in the game. What, just generally, what put the stick in your hand? How did you get that stick in your hand?
Yeah, so I actually started playing lacrosse, at the tender age of 3 for the Toronto Beaches. So I was a young little bobblehead running around out there. But how I got involved is with my older cousins played the game of lacrosse. So that's originally how my older siblings started playing. So my older brother and my older sister both played lacrosse, and then I was just kind of born into the game. I was stick in my hands, when I was 2 years old, and then started playing when I was 3 years old.
Now you had a chance to play for the team here, the Toronto Rock, which has recently moved to Hamilton. They're still the Toronto Rock, but you're playing for the New York Riptide. It's a new franchise. What's it like having played for franchise that were set in the community to one that's become new, considering in the big city as well? So there's a lot of opportunity there for fans.
Yeah, absolutely. As you guys know, Toronto Rock, it's a historic franchise, right? And it was honestly a dream come true of mine to play for that team. I grew up watching them and, going to the games, Maple Leaf Gardens, everything like that. So that was all, amazing for myself. And, to now join, the New York Riptide, it's kind of fun, starting kind of at the bottom and then trying to grow this team, grow this organization, essentially from the bottom up. Right. So, it's obviously a lot different, starting off on a new team and a new franchise, but, I'm excited to see where this team can go and where this franchise can go in the future. Cause there's, in Long Island there, or on Long Island, sorry. It's a hotbed for lacrosse, and, I could really see the game growing exponentially there.
You also, I want to say hello to your father, Drew Edwards, a Toronto Argonaut. We cover the CFL here a lot. I had a great chance to get to know him a little bit, and I bought a car in the dealership that he was working at. Not from him, unfortunately, but I did. And I have to tell you, you come from good stock. He's a great man, and I just want you to say hi to him and let the fans know that you come from good stock. And if you don't know who Drew Edwards is, just Google him and you'll see. He's was a really good player for the Toronto Argonauts, and he immigrated here to Canada. So great example of how people who come to this country make a great contribution. So you have some history that a lot of people today are in tune with. So thank him for that. I really do miss him a little bit. I used to go talk all the time, just about things, not so much about football. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell him that you say hi, but sorry to correct you, Dwight.
Sorry, yes. Dwight. I'm thinking of it. I apologize.
No worries.
Drew Edwards is someone else. Yeah, but anyway, that's okay. I apologize. I didn't even think I was going to mention his name, to be honest with you. Otherwise, I would have done some research on him. I would have told you all his stats and stuff. I didn't even really think about telling you. But you know what? It's great when the reason I was asking the question, and again, I apologize for the name, is that have you gleaned anything from him about being a pro?
Yeah, absolutely. He spent 10, 11 years in the CFL, and that's a very long career for a football player, right? And that kind of taught me a lot about that longevity, taking care of your body, in season and off season, and just how to be a pro. And he spent time in Saskatchewan there, and the fans in Saskatchewan, he was always just took time to kind of talk to everyone there too, right? And that's something that I've definitely taken upon myself to give time, to the fans. They're they're half the reason, why we're there, and they come to watch us. The least we can do is just appreciate them for all their work. Coming, paying money to come see us.
Yeah, it's no mistake that I used the name Drew. Drew's a writer, the original guy that built 3 Down Nations. So saying his name, he retired. He's retired just like your dad. I don't know if he moved to Cambridge. So the thing of the game that you play and the way you play, what defines how you play, and what's your what's your gravity as far as what's your root of what your motivation is to play?
Yeah, I guess, well, like my kind of style game is, I'm a little bit, well, now I'm getting a little bit older in my career, but, fast, and, I've had to adapt, because, I've lost a little bit of speed. There's no, question about that. So, really studying the game a lot more, doing my extra bit of video, so I can have that edge on teams. And, I love this game so much, and it's given me so much in my life. And, that's why I just kind of want to play, as long as I can. And, I'll know when to say goodbye, but, it's definitely not here yet.
Well, good for us that it's not, Gary.
Definitely. I actually have a funny story, because back in the old Scotiabank Arena, Damon was always the last guy off the floor after shoot-around warm-ups. And it was always funny being in the tunnel and watching everybody scurry when they knew everybody was off the floor but Damon. His exit was, shall we say, always epic. Going from one end of the floor full speed right down the tunnel like a bullet. And if anybody was in the way, and you're watching all these security guards moving everybody, shifting everybody, sure, there was nobody near it to get run over by this locomotive that was coming through game after game. When you had the regular guys, it was fine because they knew it was coming. But if you had a new guy there at the door and watching his eyes kind of bug out of his head for a few minutes, is always fun.
I still do that in New York. It's just kind of one of my I guess superstitions almost. And almost in a couple of games here, I've almost taken out a couple of people because they don't know it's coming. So hopefully I don't do that in the near future here.
Let's go back to the Beaches, and you played most of your junior with them. Let's talk about the program. We've had a few people from the Beaches on. They've all been talking glowingly about that program, and I know you're still in there now coaching, so of course we're going to get the inside scoop. But while you were playing it, let's talk a little bit about the program, some of your coaches, teammates.
Yeah, so I spent 4.5 years playing junior there, and it was some of the best times of my life. And I've created lifelong friendships with those teammates. You got guys like Stephen Keogh, who's still playing there. Kevin Ross, Mac Allen. There's a bunch of pros that have actually played the game. And at the start of my career there, the first 2 years, we were competitive. We were in the playoffs the first 2 years, and then it's kind of a decline in the program, and it went on for I feel a little bit too long. But now we're on the right path. We have the right coaching staff in line. We have the right ownership in line. We have the right GM. So I'm excited to kind of see what we can do in the future. We have a great group. We just had a coaches meeting there the other night and going through our depth chart, and it's like, we don't have a lot of holes. So that's, super encouraging for our lacrosse program. Cause, for a few years, the Beaches, they weren't very competitive, and, that was tough. It was tough to see, right? Cause, I'm from here and grew up playing for the Beaches. So to have turned that around, it's certainly something special for me. And honestly, I'm so excited to be, a part of that on, coaching the DN there.
I'm really glad that they're actually back in with all the nonsense that was, not allowing them to play and then allowing them to play finally. I'm glad all that got sorted out so actually can put the team field on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I tried to stay out of that stuff as much as I can. I'm like, hey, I'm a coach. Let me out of that.
Let the political stuff go over there.
Exactly.
Now you spent your last year junior with Orangeville. They won the Minto. You tore up your knee that year, though. I want to talk a bit about that program too, because again, we've had Scott on. We've had a bunch of guys from Orangeville, and it's funny because when we have them talk about it, they almost talk more glowingly about their Orangeville days than they talk about their NLL days.
Yeah, Orangeville, they're a proud group. That's for darn sure. And you know, there's a reason why they have such, you know, a winning culture. You know, they have the right pieces in place all the way from, you know, their minor system all the way up to, you know, their junior A system. And, you know, that's kind of something that obviously we're doing in the beaches, right? So we've got all the right coaching staff now for all of our younger age groups, right? So we can develop them at that, you know, that prime age to get them ready for, you know, the next level. And, you know, Orangeville, when I was there, you know, they showed up with open arms. It was a great time in my lacrosse career. You know, I lived at, you know, Andrew Suter's house there when I moved in, and, you know, his parents treated me just like, you know, one of their own. And it was something that was extremely, you know, special for me. And, you know, having, you know, Matt Sawyer as a coach there to help kind of develop me, because, you know, we didn't have, you know, we had some coaches in the beach, but we didn't have, you know, that like NLL caliber coaching. So, you know, to get that different perspective and that kind of coaching, I think definitely, you know, helped me make the jump to the next level.
How important is it to have a community that's well aware of your sport, your team, your organization, going even as far as the players?
It's huge, and it's something that we, you know, always harp on with our team, right? It's making sure that, you know, as our players, that they're getting in the community, and, you know, they're coaching our younger guys. So, you know, they can come out and, you know, watch them play a junior A game and really get excited to play the game of lacrosse. And, you know, lacrosse, it has so much room for growth. So, you know, getting into those, you know, underprivileged communities and teaching the game of lacrosse there, I think is going to be, you know, huge for the growth of our game.
Even new Canadians, like as well, young kids who don't know about the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who come from a group of people who don't have any idea.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, there's plenty of schools where you go into and you show them a stick, they wouldn't know what it was. They think it's a butterfly catcher or something, right? So, you know, getting into those schools, I think, is you know, pivotal in you know, growing our game.
Now, I brought up you tore up your knee.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, it came into play because you got drafted to Toronto that year and couldn't play that following year. It actually put a bunch of chain reactions in there because you come back the following year and you wind up with Boston. And it was the last year of them. But that was a good team. It was a great place to start learning. You want to talk a bit about them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, you know, unfortunately, I tore my ACL in you know, the Minto Cup. I think it was in like the third game. I ended up actually playing, I think, 2 games on a torn ACL. I don't think the doctors like that too much, but, you know, it was the Minto, it was my last year. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I can here. But yeah, obviously, you know, the first year with the Rock, you know, they had a team that was, you know, amazing. So unfortunately didn't make that team, but you know, Matt Sawyer ended up going over to Boston there. And, you know, he, again, so thankful of this, you know, he gave me an opportunity to play in Boston there with him. And, you know, to learn from, you know, some of those guys there, it was, I think, huge in development for my career. You know, I had guys like Josh Sanderson, you know, Dan Dawson, Casey Powell, you know, all these veteran leaders that kind of, you know, took me under their wing a bit. And so I could really, you know, learn from them and, you know, learn how to be a professional too. And, you know, I also got reunited with, you know, my friend Nick Gross there, which was, you know, was awesome for me too. But yeah, that year in Boston, it was, I think, really big for my development. And
so Boston folds. They have a dispersal draft. Buffalo picks you up, you don't go there, but you make it on with Toronto. So everything comes full circle here. Now you're here with the home crowd, but you have a team that basically should have won 2 championships, did win 1, and you have all this veteran leadership again around you. The Colin Doyles, Casey Behrens, Sandy Chapman. Again, for your development, you're the young guy at this point. How was the mentorship to get you moving along?
Honestly, amazing. You sounded off all those names there, and all those guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? For good reason, right? And not only for the points or anything they put up, is for their character too, right? So you look at a guy like Colin Doyle, leader of our team, and to watch him go to battle every single night, when he was, getting older in age, but he was still giving it his all every single game. A guy like Josh Sanderson, and, someone who I really, he took under my wing was Sandy Chapman, right? And the way that he plays the game and the way that he played was like, I was like, I want to be like that, just so steady every single game, so level-headed, would never let his emotions get the most of him, never get too high or not too low. And that was something that I kind of tried to take my game after there.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that as a veteran, right, you have the ability to share your experience on the floor. Guys like Colin Doyle, who play long past many other players, they're an excellent opportunity to learn some of the, if you will, tricks of the trade and understanding the game at a level that you can't understand without the experience that he has.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I learned a lot from him off the floor too. And, you'll even see him now, at the track, and he's still working out. He's still, I think even more so than he was when he was in his career, right? But it's how to take care of your body too, right? And I didn't like ice tubs when I was younger, but now I'm in that thing every single week. So just taking care of your body and just knowing how to be professional too.
That's just it, right? It's the little things that they do that they've learned to do because out of necessity, right? Which gives you an opportunity to lay out your plan looking into the future, right? And how you can protect yourself, because a lot of what sports is about is maintaining your body and not putting your body in harm's way, right? Like, all kidding aside, when you played on your torn ACL, that wasn't a really good idea. You wouldn't do that at this age. That's the point, right? Because you're willing to take risks when you're younger, that when you get older, you realize, are they actually worth it?
Yeah, exactly. And no, I definitely couldn't do that at this age. That's for sure. I wish I felt like I was back when I was, 20 years old. Sometimes I feel like I'm got a 50-year-old's body.
Yeah, well, that's what you can teach the younger players, right? You can help them to understand that taking care of their body, even though their body bounces back a lot easier today, there's still stuff they can do. I think if you look back, that you could say to yourself, maybe I should have done this a little more. And that to me is the most wonderful thing that veterans can bring to a team and to their younger teammates.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I've taken bits and pieces from, all the veterans that I've played with. And, I'm trying to kind of share that knowledge with, the guys in the New York Riptide now. And obviously, I'm one of the older guys on the Riptide now. So, just sharing that bit of, knowledge with them to help them through their careers, right? It can be as little as, nutrition too, right? Taking care of your body that way, it can go a really long way.
Yeah, because life's a whole bunch of experiments, right? A whole bunch of trial and error. The nice thing about getting older is you have gone through it all. So, it's a race. It's a race between your body, your head and your body, right? Like when you're younger, it seems, well, not you. I mean, generally speaking, athletes don't use their head as much as they do their body when they're younger. And there's this cross section where they get to the point where their age, needs to use their head a little more to get the progress and or the preparation and execution for an upcoming game or season.
No, absolutely. Right. And that goes, there's a lot of different facets of that. And, like I talked about before, film preparation, right? That's something that I wish I did a lot more of when I was younger. You know, not to say I didn't do film, but to the extent that I do it now, right? So little things like that in preparation, it honestly, it goes a long way.
Yeah, it helps your perspective. You know, sometimes your perspective is based on experience, sometimes it's based on trial and error, and sometimes you're just flailing in the dark. So it's nice to be able to figure it out so that, you know, listen, the older we get, the more careful we have to be with what we do. It's you know, it's in life, it's the same thing. It's true for all of us, right? Because we don't bounce back as well as we did. How much do you miss being able to bounce back and do the things that are a little more risky than they would be, you know, when you're younger?
Yep. Yeah, I certainly missed that bounce back. That's for sure.
Well,
going down the hallway is a little. You're looking now a little more than you used to, I think.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, it's funny because you developed a really good defensive game, but you being so fast, the transition game was something to behold, and that I can't tell you how many penalties were called on other teams because they were unsettled, jumping on the floor early, trying to get it, trying to stop. So there was a whole bunch of facets to your speed, even whether you were going to go in and score, whether you're going to hold up, but it had everybody unsettled on the other side, and it was something to, you know, that just sets us across lacrosse more than any other sport, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, kind of what smart transition players do, right? Is kind of stretching the floor. And, you know, you're not going to get a breakaway every single time, but, you know, you're going to, you know, maybe put a couple old guys on defense, you know, maybe you're going to draw a penalty. So, you know, those, you know, it seems like a little thing sprinting up the floor, but, you know, it can escalate into a lot bigger things too.
Well, and also with the entire Toronto Rock transition game moving to New York at the same time. You left us a little in the lurch over here, you and Scott. So do you talk to Scott a lot about now, especially being the veteran now, and him more or less still being the green guy, but he's pretty savvy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I talked with we had a good talk really at the start of the season. You know, we talk, you know, throughout the week and stuff, and he's quite the player. You know, he's still obviously he's got a ways to grow in the game, but so do, you know, all of our young players. And he has such a high ceiling, and I'm so excited to kind of see where you know, he can bring his game. And it's you know, it's exciting for me to be able to kind of mentor you know, a kid like that.
It's also a good conversation because I believe he's going for his master's in kinesiology. He'll probably help you keep your body in peace, in this one piece, for a couple extra years.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's I definitely, me and him bounce you know, ideas off of each other for sure. And you know, I've been a strength and conditioning coach too, so like he'll ask me things, you know, I'll ask him things, nutrition side, you know, should we be doing, you know, yoga this week kind of thing. So we've you know, we've developed a good relationship that way for sure.
Right. You were the recipient of the Lestley Award from The Rock in 2019. Again, it's about character, both for community and on the floor. You want to talk about what that meant to you?
Yeah, that was honestly one of you know, one of my more special parts of you know, being with The Rock. And you look at all the names that are on that trophy. You know, you get Patrick Merrill, Sandy Chapman, you know, Jim Veltman, all these different names. And for me to be beside them, it was extremely special to me. And, you know, the only reason I think, you know, I got, you know, put onto that award was, you know, the guys that I got to learn from, right? The veterans on The Rock that, you know, I really got to learn from and, you know, emulate my game from, and, you know, learning how to, you know, be in the community and, you know, coaching and everything like that. So that award, it was definitely, you know, it was a special one for me for sure.
It's really special. You know, a lot of times athletes get awards and the name of the trophy is just the name of the trophy. This one just isn't a name.
No.
Right?
No, you know,
it's very personal, the person it's named after.
Absolutely, right. And you know, I've picked you know, the years of Jim Veltman, Colin Doyle, the guys that actually got you know, coached by him. And, you know, the amount of character that he had, and what he put into the game and what he did for the game, it was just surreal. And again, to be nominated for that award, it was certainly humbling.
That takes us into the family of lacrosse. There's a very in fact, when we talked to Jamie last week, we talked to him about how players are so interwoven, between playing in the NLL and playing in other organizations, leagues throughout the country and North America, for that matter, where they're teammates during one season and their opponents in the other. By the way, he doesn't like the idea, first of all. Surprise. So shocker.
Yeah.
But how do you like the idea? And give us a couple of words on what it's like. I know you're a transition player, but when it comes to being a transition player from league to league and team to team.
Yeah, no, it's no secret that obviously lacrosse, it's it's a tight knit community. Everyone kind of knows everyone knows everyone's tendencies and everything like that. But playing senior A and playing NLL, there's there's no denying that it takes a toll on your body, right? And I could even attest to that. I ended up hurting my other knee playing summer lacrosse, for the Oakville Rocks. So it's when you're young, it seems like it's an easy thing to do, and then you kind of get older and you're like, I don't know if my body can kind of hold up to this. But in saying that, senior A lacrosse, the Mann Cup, it's one of the most coveted cups in the lacrosse world, right? So that's always something that was again another one of my dreams, is to hoist that Mann Cup. So unfortunate that I wasn't able to do that in my senior career, but not closing the door completely, but
yeah,
it's hard. It's honestly, it's hard. And plus, you got your jobs too. So it's, it's a lot of lacrosse. You definitely have to find, a good life partner that will put up with all that.
Yes.
Yeah. The point is that you're playing a game 12 months of the year. And it's a game that has such, like you said, there's these magnetic trophies and events that take place that are hard to resist, because even if you didn't play in them and didn't have anything to do with them, you got to sit in the locker beside a guy bragging about being a Mann Cup winner. So it's got to be tough.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I have a lot of respect for, the guys that do that too, right? There's guys that play senior A, PLL, and then NLL, right? So like those guys that can do that, kudos to them. And if I could do that, I would. But the old body, I don't think could handle that anymore.
Yeah, well, it's no crime that you can't, and I hope I'm not giving you the impression I think it is. And the viewers out there, it's more of what I'm getting at, and what's more important is the social aspect of the game, and how just because you're your opponents doesn't mean you're not teammates. I know that sounds crazy, but in lacrosse, that to me sounds more logical than it does in other sports.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, your friends, before the game, and then during the game, you're complete enemies, right? There's like almost a switch, right? And then after the game, you can be friends again, and that's just the competitive nature of us, us as lacrosse players, is having that competitive streak. I can say to that, like this weekend, right? I'm playing my old team. Playing Nick Rose, my old team there, right? He's my friend before. During the game, I can tell you right now, he's not going to be my friend, right? But then afterwards, we'll be friends again, right? So that's just, I feel like the better athletes is they have that kind of competitive streak in them where they can kind of switch it on and off.
Yeah. So thanks for your answer. Jamie got the ball rolling in my head, and this week you've kind of accelerated a little bit. So I guess what I will say is this is what we've learned on this show in the past couple of weeks is the commitment that young men, and I'm sure women do it too, to some extent, the physical toll that they take to do what they do because they love the game so much. So there's a couple of questions and a couple of, examples, and you're one that, it isn't that good an idea to do that. So I'm in love and taken aback by the fact that they play all year round, and you brought it to reality as Jamie did last week. And that, so people understand this isn't because Jamie doesn't want people playing 12 months of the year. It's because he does understand, and being in where he is, he can see how it affects players physically, and you being one of them who's shown us that. So I appreciate you pointing that out, because it seems easy enough for us sitting on the couch watching you guys play or sitting in the stands. We forget the toll that you guys take. So thank you for playing and taking that toll. And to the rest of the players who can do it all year, okay, enjoy it. I got a different attitude, so thanks for changing my attitude.
Absolutely.
Now, getting into coaching, we've talked about a little bit that you're with the Toronto Beaches as a junior assistant and director of athletics. How did you get into coaching?
Yeah, so I originally got into coaching through my friend Reed Acton. So he owns Beast Athletic here in the GTA. So involving box lacrosse, field lacrosse. He also does hockey too. So his dad, Bob Acton, he was a pivotal part in me becoming a coach. So I actually started doing summer camps for lacrosse and all that when I was in my teens, and he originally got me into the camps that way. And then from there I ended up coaching minor beaches program with one of my best friends, Brandon Turner. We had a team together for about 3-4 years, and then from there, I just honestly, I love coaching so much. I love seeing, kids develop, not only in the sport, but, develop into these, amazing young adults too. Right. So it's something that I'm, extremely passionate about, and, I've done now for, over a decade now. And it's pretty funny now to see, guys that I coach, when they're younger now they're in the league, and I'm either playing with or against them, right? So you look at a guy like Mitch Gustafson, who I played with on the Rock there. He came up to me and was like, "Hey man, this is pretty cool. He coached me, now I'm playing with you." I'm like, "Yeah, this is pretty cool, but you're making me feel old." So it's it's something that, again, I'm extremely passionate about. And again, I'm coaching another minor team this coming summer for the Beaches, and then I'm also heavily involved with Beast Athletics, that program I was talking about there before. I have the 2012 team for that, and again, it's just something that I'm very passionate about.
Well, tell us more about Beast Athletics. What's the whole purpose of it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Beast Athletics, it was branched off of Bob Acton Sports. So that's where his dad's company, Reed Acton, originally started from, and he kind of branched it off from there to make a bit of a more competitive lacrosse and developing these kids a little bit more. And Reed has done a great job of getting some of the most amazing coaches in Ontario to come work with our program. And, it's all about, trying to grow the game of lacrosse in Toronto too, right? So we all know hockey in Canada here, right? So, he runs the hockey side of it, but it's also, if you're going to play hockey, guess what you're going to do in the summertime? You're going to play lacrosse with us too, right? So making sure that, these kids, it's tough nowadays, right? You see these kids, playing hockey all year round, right? And, I just think it's so beneficial for kids to be playing different sports, right? Whether it's, lacrosse, which obviously I'm the one that's, trying to get that more, but any different sport, not playing a sport all year round, it's not good for the kids' development. So, really trying to, again, grow the game of lacrosse in Toronto, and then trying to get kids playing different sports too.
Yeah, it's like they say, a change is as good as a rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You get to use another part of your brain. Not, there are tons of similarities. Let's be clear. I'm not blind enough to not realize that there are a lot of similarities between hockey and lacrosse, but there are some differences, and those differences, I think they help you in both games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you talk to some of the, the NHL players that are, that played lacrosse growing up, John Tavares, Montour, a bunch of different names. Shanahan, exactly, right? All these guys, Adam Oates, you could go on forever.
Hey, Roberts,
yeah, but saying how much, lacrosse helped them develop in hockey, and vice versa, right? So again, it's just so, I think, crucial for kids to be playing all different sports.
Hockey went through a big change, and one of the changes was actually the way that they started playing hockey, the way lacrosse is played. The way the players move as a unit as opposed to individually. And we've talked here about also the fact that basketball has a side in lacrosse as well. So, you have all these different sports, especially being a defender, right? There's different ways to defend, and there's some benefit to, understanding the game of basketball and helping you to be a better defender in lacrosse.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many correlations between the three sports, and basketball is probably the one that's the most similar, right? That a lot of people don't know, and that's something that I usually do before season. Whenever I'm kind of working out, I always try to play a game of pickup basketball, because it's honestly the closest thing you can kind of do to playing lacrosse before a season, getting your body ready.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to segue a little bit here. We're coming to the end of Black History Month. I want to get into the Damon45 project, but I remember a video you had done with Latrell Harris, Nick Rose, One Voice, One Dream, right? And talking about some of the issues. And I'd also seen Dane Smith and Josh Byrne put together one as well. Let's talk a little bit about this and dealing with racism, trying to get it out in the forefront, education, trying to help eliminate this nonsense, and your part towards helping educate.
Yeah, absolutely. Inclusion and diversity is something that I'm fully committed to. As part of the reason why I created this program, Damon45. I wanted to kind of get into these schools and teach these kids the importance of diversity and inclusion, but also teach them the power of their words, right? Using positive language as opposed to discouraging language. And kids don't necessarily know how how powerful that their words can be, right? So when I get into these schools, I tell them stories that I had to go through personally, even when I was their age, right? And I hope I can kind of get through to these kids that way, by telling a bit of my story, right? And kids, I coach, like I said, I coach a lot here too, and I see kids that are hurting, and I hope to give them the power to get through this adversity too, right? Giving them tools to get through this adversity. And another component of my program is I want to get into these underprivileged schools, right? And I want to give these kids a bit of hope too, right? And I think it's something that's really important for for myself and for kids to kind of see someone that maybe looks like them, in order to give them a little bit of hope too, right? And I'm not saying give them hope in being professional athletes, but give them hope. Look outside of lacrosse too, right? I've been successful in my career outside of lacrosse, so giving them a little bit of hope that way, I think is really pivotal for that. And like we said before too, it's another component of my program is I'm trying to make this sport inclusive for everyone, right? No matter your age, gender, ethnicity, whatever it is, just making it accessible to everyone.
You can wrestle the obvious. It's easier to wrestle the obvious than the inferences. Like, it's not a question of, I hear what you're saying, and I agree 100%. It's not about, gee, I want to try and slice this the right way. It's about inferences. It's about not being able to just not think that you're different. The fact is, there's a lot of situations where, people of, that are visible minorities, they see, they look around, they don't feel that that's for them. Giving them a chance to understand that every opportunity, because there's nothing. Here's what it is. There's nothing that makes me happier than to know that everybody out there looks at the same amount of opportunities across the board. The problem is some people have a shorter list of opportunities, and sometimes, and I think the challenge for you is, it's the inferences. It's the people who see it but don't realize that it really isn't that big a challenge to be involved. And one of the most important things I think you and your group can do is let children know, or people of minorities know, that they can get involved. The reason they're not involved isn't because they're not wanted, because they're the first ones that are looking at it. So go, you can do it. You're more than welcome to try it. It's not because you're not wanted, it's because you're one of the first. What are you going to do? That's what happens when you have, new people in the country. That's why when you have new people in the community, it's about a reach out program where you get an opportunity to tell these kids, it's not that you're not welcome either, because that disturbs me a lot too, because we shouldn't assume people aren't welcome, because sometimes they're not welcome by default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's honestly, that's, part of, part of the reason why I created this program, is to kind of get it to places where they don't necessarily have it, right? Where they don't necessarily have means to lacrosse sticks or anything like that. So, being able to actually physically, hopefully soon, because of obviously COVID and everything, hopefully soon get into these schools and, get sticks in these kids' hands and show them, how amazing this sport can be. And, what sport can do for kids too, right? Not only lacrosse, just any sport. Mm-hmm. Sports, help me develop, in my life, my career, so much, and I owe so much to sports, right? And that's what I kind of want to do, right? Is make sure that, these kids have, the means to get into the sport.
Yeah. And understand that, being a teammate on the floor means you can be a teammate after the game as well, that you referred to. It's not only about having enemies that you're friends with, or friends that you're enemies with. It's also being a human being and getting a chance to get to know, because there's nothing drives racism crazy more than us getting together and talking. Or getting together and participating together. That's what drives racists crazy. That's what they want to stop. They want to stop us from getting together and getting to know each other. And that's part of what you're doing, and I congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's another part of my program too, is, having these crucial conversations. And, sometimes it makes people feel, uncomfortable. That's why these conversations aren't had, but it's so pivotal in, dismantling racism as a whole, to have, these conversations.
Yeah, it's not intentional. Most of what I consider that were sometimes people pointed as racism, I prefer to call a lot of it ignorance. Like, ignorance, unfortunately, is easy to manipulate. People can say things, and because of ignorance, they either believe them. And I'm talking about from both sides of the equation. Like, if you're a visible minority, if you're told you're not welcome by one person, you might think everybody feels that way. And doing things like you're doing in the sporting community, what it does is it creates a team. And on that team, you have different people, and you end up talking to each other and going, you know what I used to think? And I'm not talking about one individual group to another. I mean, everybody needs a chance to, to get to know somebody else and begin to understand not how we're different, but how we're the same. And putting them on a lacrosse floor together, once there's a team that wins and a team that loses, full well teammates are going to be teammates, right? Once the ball touches the ground.
Absolutely. And that's the power of sport for sure.
And that's my way of saying I agree with you how important sport is on that level, and many more.
We've had a number of programs that have worked that way. I think the most famous one now of recent was when the Grizzlies movie came out, and talking about inclusion up in Iqaluit, none of it, and the suicide rates of teens. And once sport came in, lacrosse especially, the feeling of inclusiveness all of a sudden curbed that dramatically. And I think a lot of your program is about showing the inclusiveness, and everybody can get together. It doesn't matter where you're from. We're all going to do this, and we're all going to, learn about each other. I think a lot of it about understanding each other.
Yeah, and mutual purpose, because purpose is what drives us.
Absolutely.
The reason we do things is important.
Absolutely.
Now, you got this up and running not long ago, right?
Yeah, so I created it. So I originally created in the year 2020. So I was in schools virtually last year. And then recently, so I just kind of, obviously I got hired onto the fire department. So I had to take a break from it for a bit through training and everything like that. So I recently revamped the program and started getting into schools again at the start of this month. So it's been, I've been in about, I think three schools now. And honestly, it's pretty amazing. I have a Q&A session at the end of each of my presentations too, because, I think it's so important for kids to have questions, and then, me be able to kind of help answer those questions, obviously when I can answer the questions. So it's been amazing for me, and it's one of the most rewarding things that I've been able to do.
Now, do you work on this by yourself, or do you have a team of people that you bring in with you? Or that seems like a daunting challenge, just coming in by yourself and trying to show this and do this.
Yeah, so it's on my own right now. I was able to work with a business coach over the last few months. Suzanne Park, she was amazing in helping me kind of get my ideas all together, because I can be a little bit of a scramble brain sometimes. So I worked with a business coach for the last few months. So that was, I think, huge in helping me develop my program to higher levels, to where it kind of is now. And, again, I'm kind of by my side. I had someone, build my website for me. And I can't do that myself. I told you before, I'm not the most technology savvy person there is. So Lucky Petty Media helped with that. So that was amazing. And then, yeah, so it's on my own right now. I talk to different schools and principals kind of on my own. And then, when I see this program developing, yes, I'm going to have to get, people to work with me on that. Right. But it can't be just any people. It's going to have to be pretty a rigorous process in picking who I think can kind of help me with this program and get into schools and, teaching lacrosse and everything like that.
Has anything surprised you since doing it? What's been easier, just like, with your playing experience, right? The moves that you can make, the ones that surprised you when you started getting involved in this, and the ones that seem a little harder than you thought they might have been?
Yeah, for sure. So last year, when I was doing the program, I almost like burned myself out a bit. I was doing kind of too many, at the same time, the same day and stuff like that. So being able to kind of spread them out a bit and, really process what happened during the presentation. What should I do different? Learning, developing that way. I think that's been a huge learning curve for me in this program. And then, honestly, just I love, the questions that some of these kids have, right? And part of my program, I talk about sympathy versus empathy. And, when some of these kids ask me these questions, I'm like, that's empathy right there. That's you trying to feel what I'm feeling inside and what I had to go through. And, that's, I think that's a huge part in helping these kids, develop in their communities and in their schools.
Yeah. So what you're saying is empathy's better to understand somebody. Sympathy could drag down the relationship a little bit, because who wants to be thought of sympathy? Like, sympathy is not what anyone's really looking for, right? It's not a motivator. It's don't feel sorry for yourself. Not that that's the difference. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Do something about it.
Exactly, right? And that's a huge part of it, right? We never would ask for someone to feel sorry for us, right? We're just trying to ask, how do you think we feel? How do you think the people before us feel, right? So I think that's just a huge part, and helping these kids develop emotionally too.
I learned something from what you said, and I think I heard it right. And what I was hearing was that you felt that the doing these meetings and talking to these kids was important, going in there with a plan. But what you realized was I need to listen a little longer to what they said and think in a 360-degree turn what they're saying, and take the time to do it.
Absolutely, right. And like you said before, life is learning through trial, right? So I'm going to keep on learning. I've learned a lot from these kids, and I hope they've kind of learned the same amount from me. And I know I'm not going to get to every single kid, but if I can get to one, two kids in a classroom, that's a win for me.
Yeah, the toughest thing for anyone, and I take this myself, the toughest thing for anyone is with trial comes error. It's when the error stops people from trying. That's why you need to be congratulated, because it's easy to pick on the person who says something than the person who says nothing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
if you want to get somewhere, there's got to be a conversation, and whenever you have a conversation, you're bound to hurt somebody, because that's what happens when you have conversations. The important thing is, this is where the sympathy leaves and the empathy enters. You empathize with why they're hurt and figure that out. And societies are hurt all the time. And what you're doing is trying to heal that. I'm not telling you what you're trying to do. I'm just telling you from a broad spectrum. Healing is something that takes sometimes a little work and a little time and understanding. So good for you for realizing that, because it's really easy to want to do something good. It's really easy to trip over everything you try to do. So it's a challenge. I admire the challenge that you've taken on.
Absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
No, it's hard. I hope people understand that. And if people are in the misconception that people do this for ego, trust me, nothing ends ego quicker than you having an opinion that's trying to help many people. You become a target. So I appreciate the fact that you do that. And Gary's internet just blew up. So you and I are alone. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Hopefully he'll come back. So yeah, I don't mean to hijack what you were talking about. So ultimately, what to you is a victory, or what does victory look like in what you're doing? You've hinted at it, but I'm asking you kind of to review what the victory is and what you do with.
Yeah, absolutely. The big one is just teaching these kids the power of their words, right? And the kids who are victims of this is giving them the strength to get through this adversity. And then the other kind of thing is making lacrosse accessible to everyone, right? And giving those kids hope, right? And that's that's another huge part of Damon45.
Yeah, a real important thing for kids is, and I know growing up, because I was a minority at the time, and believe it or not, I was a visible minority. Back then, being Italian in the 60s was you were a visible minority, because we dressed differently and ate differently and lived differently. So people knew who we were and knew what we looked like. And almost like when you talked about the importance of words, we grew up with all kinds of words. There's kind words. There's, words of understanding. There's words of sympathy. And then there's the angry words, and the ones that hurt people the most. And I think that's what I was hearing you say too, is to begin to understand how words matter.
Absolutely. Right. And I teach them, just really, it's tough to do sometimes, but think before you speak. Right. And that's a huge one. And, one of the kind of stories that, I tell these kids is, honestly, I don't remember, I don't remember the first goal that I scored. I don't remember the first, tournament that I won in lacrosse, but, I can remember the first time, a kid was racist to me in lacrosse. So, the fact that I can, pick that out of, all the other memories that I had in my minor lacrosse days, right? What does that mean? right? That means, you know, our words are extremely powerful.
Yeah, now that we've said and all, most of us have decided that racism sucks and it needs to go.
Yeah.
The next stage I think we are learning about is that sometimes words that are ingrained in our society that are part of everyday conversation now are being looked at from a lens of basically people who are being hurt by those words that the majority didn't realize was hurting them. And that's the other thing, right? Is that not only you're teaching kids, visible minorities about words and how they are affected, the majority around them to understand why, a football team's name needs to be changed. People don't understand that. But if you're empathetic, you figure it out. So that's the challenge I have. Listen, I admire that challenge. And as a fireman, thank goodness you have some of that time that you can do that. Because I know a lot of firemen who are carpenters, electricians, they spend a lot of time, not because they want to, but because they have a lot of time where they can do something else because they're basically waiting to put their lives in danger. So thanks for doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just before we go, how does schools get in contact with you to do this?
Yeah, so I have my website, www.damon45.com. There's a link in there to contact, and that's how I can get contacted, if you need me for your school.
Awesome. I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us about all of this stuff and, reminisce about some of your career. Just before you go, of course, we miss you in Toronto, and of course, I have a Damon Edwards original.
Always got to show off his swag. Always got to show off.
Yeah, well, I have to show off my collection, but it's one of my prized possessions. It actually has seen the Costco days when I'm allowed to wear a jersey. It's always this one for St. Patrick's Day. So thank you.
Perfect. Getting some good use out of it then.
Definitely. We wish you all the best of luck in the program. All the best of luck with the continuing career, both playing and coaching. Hopefully you have a lot of years left in both.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys giving me the time here to talk.
Absolutely. And I can't wait till the preacher stops calling me from Gary's church. Tell him to stop wearing the sports jerseys, not just. It was really a pleasure. So I'll call him Gary Green so I make up for Dwight Edwards. No, does that work? Well, thank you, sir. It was a real pleasure talking to you, and good luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Okay, for Gary Groob and of course Damon Edwards, my name's Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk, seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For lacrosse talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody.